We're going to get right to that Fox News alert overnight. The White House canceling President Obama's trip to Malaysia as the government shutdown enters its second day.
This as Republicans wait for Senate Democrats to get serious. Doug McKelway is live at the Russell Rotunda with the latest. Hey, Doug.
Hey, Brian. Well, Republicans will try yet again today to provide some partial funding for the federal government. The House Rules Committee is slated to meet at 10:15 with three separate measures that would provide funding for the Veterans Administration, would also provide funding for national parks and museums, and would provide funding for the federal contribution to keep the District of Columbia's open and up and operating. But yesterday, they did the same thing, and Democrats blocked all GOP efforts to provide some partial funding. A key example of that, a very profound symbol of it, is this image yesterday of Republicans waiting at a conference table for Democrats to show up, and they never did. The president, meanwhile, has announced that he has canceled his trip to Malaysia because of the impasse, and Mr. Obama has promised to veto any Republican effort that falls short of full funding for the federal government. Here's Mr. Obama.
It's only going to happen when Republicans realize they don't get to hold the entire economy hostage over ideological demands.
But Republicans counter it is the White House and Senate Democrats who are blocking all efforts at compromise. Here's Senator Rand Paul.
There's a couple things that are important here. The president saying he wants 100% of Obamacare. He wants his way or the highway. We've offered him several compromises, and he continues to reject them. But we're trying to fund government, and they're trying to stop any funding because they think it's a parlor game and they'll win politically.
One estimate finds that this shutdown is costing the economy about $300 million per day, $12.5 million per hour, and that works out to about $1.6 billion per week. That is based on the impact of a federal worker going without his paycheck. The average pay for a federal worker these days is about $110,000 a year. But keep in mind, 17 years ago, when we saw this similar kind of a shutdown, any adverse economic impacts were ameliorated eventually when funding came back and all those federal workers got their back pay, and the economy came roaring right on back.
It did.
Right?
All right. Doug, thank you very much. So the president canceling the trip to Malaysia. The other big news from the First Family is the First Lady's official Twitter account forced to limit the updates.
Right.
In other words, we finally...
Would she be allowed to do it herself?
She could, but apparently we've been paying somebody to actually run her free Twitter account.
Well,
wow.
not today.
Not today, and non-essential employee. All right.
But we're all wondering, too, I mean, why did Democrats vote against something as simple as dumping congressional exemptions? Hannity was all over it because he asked Democratic Congressman Luis Gutierrez that very question last night.
Listen, I've been 21 years in the Congress of the United States. I pay my $485 like any other federal employee.
Congressman, you know
that
better than
receives
that.
the
That's
kind of
not
health
true.
care that I receive.
That's not true.
I pay like any other person. I don't get it for
Congressman,
free.
you are getting
it
a
is subsidized like anyone else.
You're getting 72% subsidy that the rest of America is not getting. That's 72%. Wait. That's a special gift perk you gave yourselves. Republicans are saying, take it away. And they're also saying, if big business gets an exemption for a year, give it to individuals. Why is that?
Here's what I have to say. Look, I didn't like when they brought the Affordable Care Act because I didn't think it went far enough. I almost voted against it because of that.
Did I ask you that? I want to go back to my original question. You get a special subsidy as a congressman, and all your fellow congressmen and senators, you get that. Also, big business gets a special exemption. The Republicans in their final offer said, get rid of the special exemptions. Why wouldn't you support that? Why do you think you're above the American people?
No, I think we should be treated equal to everyone else. And I want to make sure that everybody else in my congressional district has the same access to quality health care that their member of Congress
you're
has.
just ducking and
that every
dodging.
member of Congress
You're
has.
getting 72% subsidy.
Maybe he wants 85%, right?
Yeah, keep in mind, you have all these Democrats on record. What did the Republicans want? First of all, they wanted to defund Obamacare. That was voted down. So they said, okay, if you don't want to defund it, let's go ahead and delay it for 1 year. They said, no, we don't want to delay it. We wanted to start on October 1st. And boy, did it start with a bang. Next, they said, okay, what about we get rid of that special 75% subsidy that every member of Congress and their staffs had? And all the Democrats said, nope, we're going to keep it. Well, that, come election time, that's going to be a tough that's going to be a tough hill to defend.
Right. And so far, Republicans have been unable to get the Democrats to even negotiate on any element of this. They feel like they have the upper hand, and not having Gutierrez, that congressman from California, who basically says that thing the Obamacare wasn't liberal enough. Yeah. Didn't have enough payment in it, didn't have that national option, that universal health care that he always wanted. That shows you a little bit what the president's up against, because a lot of people were dissatisfied by the amount of there wasn't enough socialistic principles in this Obamacare. But here's the thing to keep in mind. The president is absolutely in his element. He gets to sit there and vilify Republicans, and Ann Romney, who's going to be on shortly, must say, this reminds me of a year and a half ago, when the president was at his best, when he was able to have an opponent, a domestic opponent, and vilify them and talk about how ridiculous every statement is. Now has 2 appearances today. Yesterday he went out of his way, with all these people who are supposedly benefiting from Obamacare behind him, to just sit there and just have a sermon about how Republicans are destroying the country for their ideological means.
Well,
why is it okay for him to change his own program 17 times and Republicans not have an option to do 1, 2, or 3 changes?
This is the mastery of their marketing, though, right? They say, we want to be like everybody. We want every American to have the same thing, except us. So what they're saying, and then what they're doing, and what they're affording the American people versus what they're affording themselves, is so wildly different. Yet there's this marketing machine out there that is the Obama administration, and they are putting a full court press on the sale of their program.
And what works for that marketing machine for the Obama administration is they have a compliant press corps in this country, a mainstream media that goes, you know what? We've got this government Senate shutdown. It's the fault of the Republicans. And if you read the papers today, once again, it's very, very clear. In fact,
but Steve,
if you look at the Daily News today, this is the cover of the New York Daily News. We told you the story about how the vets couldn't get in because of the government shutdown. What did you do for our country? And they're showing John Boehner and Ted Cruz. What did you do for your country? Well, you know what they did? They were standing up for their principles. They believed that Obamacare was not a good thing that should be subjected to the people of the United States, and they're standing for what they believe in.
Well, it was a little embarrassing.
And they wind up with that in a headline of a real newspaper.
Well, yesterday they also had 2 other networks try to show how great it would be to log on to Obamacare, and both of them were sat there embarrassed when they could not get on live television, and would not work.
Right,
and
they
they
were
sat
sweating.
there red-faced.
That's right.
And at the same time, you saw the agenda, too, of other networks screaming at Republican congressmen and women, saying, why are you doing this? Why are you bringing the government down? As if it's never been locked down before.
Why isn't anybody screaming at the president? Mr. President, you say you will negotiate with anybody who has a good idea, and yet, as we just saw in Doug McKelway's image from that roundtable on Capitol Hill yesterday, all the Republicans showed up. Nobody from the White House, nobody from
And they're
the
not going
Democratic
to.
caucus.
Ultimately, he's the leader, though, right? He's the boss. I mean, Chris Christie said himself, look, if this was going on in my own backyard, I would get everybody. We're staying in this room until we figure it out. I'm the boss. Right. I'm in charge. Let's work it out. But our president has a hands-off approach, as we've seen throughout the week. Many times, but specifically this week. Another story dominating social media yesterday was the failure of Obamacare rollout. You alluded to that, Brian. Error messages, website crashes, leaked personal information. I have a pet peeve with that. And a low success rate for sign-up, right?
That's the graphic from yesterday. Where it said essentially that we're busy, and I've got a new. Can you go ahead?
Steve's been trying to log on all morning.
Zoom in right now. I've been trying for an hour and 10 minutes to get into healthcare.gov, and this is what I got now. We have a lot of visitors on the site right now. Please stay on this page.
We've been on it for 2 days.
Yeah. Also, you can go down to the live chat, and I tried that, and I couldn't actually live chat.
All right, so a lot of you out there have your own similar stories. You wanted to go on, you were curious, or you actually wanted to sign up. This tweet comes from Thomas. He said this: it was slow, and it couldn't tell me if I qualified for a subsidy. It did quote $350-80
to $800
a monthly that I surely can't afford. I also gave a warning that your actual premium would be a lot higher. I thought it was supposed to be affordable for who? And this is why I think politics is going to be eliminated from Obamacare shortly. If it works, if people are getting quality health care for less money and the deficit goes down, the president wins. Politics are about to be out of this. once they put it together, and this is what a lot of people said, this would be the headlines today if it wasn't for the shutdown.
Brian, a lot of people don't want to be told by the government that they have to buy something. And there are a lot of young people who can't afford it, and now we're going to have to.
Right, but they're not telling you that. So we are. And we've been asking you to send us messages in, and Judy Benchtold sent us this on Facebook. I tried, and nothing. I now get phone calls from INSCOs trying to sell me a supplement insurance program to go into Medicare. So all these insurance companies are calling her, apparently. I am from Pennsylvania. There is no listing for Pennsylvania residents to even get an idea of what we are looking at in our states.
So they got some bugs to work out because it's not going quite right. All right.